Hey guys, it's Marina. Do you know what I love about this episode? How warm, kind, and thoughtful Ashleigh was. We reached out to her on Instagram as strangers and left the podcast recording as friends. We love what she stands for, and we knew we wanted to work with her. So when we started talking about the capsule collab, our curated box with themed collections, we knew we had to work with her. Check us out on Instagram at the capsule collab and stay tuned for more information. And now, enjoy the episode with Ashleigh from Compliments and Coffee.
Welcome back to the Gen 20 podcast. I'm Nicole.
And I'm Marina.
And today we're talking about self-love with special guest Ashleigh from the owner of Compliments and Coffee, a collection of mugs dedicated to combating negative self-talk.
Ashleigh, welcome. We're so excited for you to join us on the podcast today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and about your business?
Yeah, absolutely. Hello. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast today. I am the founder of Compliments and Coffee, and what it is I sell coffee mugs that have affirmations on the inside so that women can help, it will encourage women to silence their negative thinking, their negative self-talk. So it's just a way for them to sip their truth and know that they are enough and give them that confidence before they take on their day.
We love that so much. I have the you're capable of bringing your dreams to life mug, and I had my coffee in it this morning, so I would be using it right now, but it's in my dishwasher. But I love it so much. It's just such like a positive reminder, like to start your day, or whether you're working on something really hard and challenging, or just feeling kind of down about things. Like I just love it so much.
Oh, thank you.
Me too. We are obsessed. I bought the one that says validation is for parking. I don't need anyone's approval but my own, it makes me smile every morning when I drink my coffee from it. And I that's something I struggle with. I constantly feel like I'm looking for approval from others. And that's my 2020 goal, is to just quiet that voice. So my mug helps remind me.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. That validation for parking is definitely that's my husband's favorite. That's definitely one of mine. And right now I'm drinking out of like my bestseller, which is the Perfectly Imperfect mug. And the quote is, "I'm allowed to be a masterpiece and a work in progress at the same damn time." So I like that one because it just, sometimes so many of us think that we have to get to a certain part or in our life or attain a goal in order to be the best versions of ourselves. And we're, life, we're going to constantly be growing and evolving. So it's like we need to celebrate ourselves along the journey and understand that, like, as long as you're doing your best, that is enough. And you don't have to wait to hit a certain milestone to be like the best,
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, we're definitely really big on goal setting. I like having goals to like work towards, but I think it's so important to remember that you don't have to reach that goal. And even if you never reach it, like you're so good enough as you are.
Right. Absolutely. So many people think that if they mess up, then they failed. But I also think that you can't get to where you're going unless you fail, because that's how you learn. And so the sooner you start to fail, like I always say, fail quickly. That way you can correct yourself and get back on course. So the longer you wait to try because you're scared of failing, it's just like you're losing so much time. So.
Yeah, I actually started writing this blog post. I think it was like years ago at this point. And the title of it is Fail Faster, Fail Smarter. And I should probably go back and finish that actually, because I feel like it's so important to just embrace failing, because really, like, failing, I don't even know why failure is a word, honestly, because it's really just a learning experience.
Mhm.
Like, when things don't work out, like, what you've done is learned something very important, you know?
Yeah, and it's like learning by doing.
Yeah, it's so true.
Exactly. And it's so easy just to get caught up in like thinking about something that we're not doing enough. Like I think growth comes from action, and I think it's so important to like embrace action.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and growth comes from failure, just like you said. Like somehow along the way, we were taught that failure is this like bad, scary, negative thing. But if you look at all the the big leaders or the big companies, they've all had crazy disasters. Like Steve Jobs got fired from his own company, so like it turned out okay for him, like success wise. So we should be taking calculated risks, but taking risks. And I think the more we learn to embrace the process, the better we are for ourselves.
That is so true. It's like failing or even rejection, it builds character. And also, what happens when you have to endure those types of things or face those types of things, it builds this resilience. So, this thick skin, so that you can start to
Mhm.
handle, you can put yourself in like other challenging situations because you understand that you do have this resilience. And so, that's exactly what you were saying, the growth mindset. Like, that's what really helps grow your mind is by trying, failing, and correcting.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think one way that people, if anyone else out there like me or like us has had that fear of failure moment, I think a way that you can kind of embrace failure is that self love that we want to talk about today. Because if you love yourself, you are more gentle with yourself. And if you're more gentle with yourself, you can accept mistakes and quote unquote failures, and you can see the opportunity for growth. Because if something happens, you just choose to see it as like a dead stop failure or a learning opportunity where you can pivot away from. Like you were saying earlier, you can move on to a new path, and kind of the faster you fail,
Right.
the faster you get there. You have to be able to accept
No,
that
that's
about
so true.
yourself.
That's really good. Yeah, I'm so
Yeah.
excited to talk about self love, you guys. So this is good. This is like my jam.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much to say. I think there's just so many topics that we can, cover with it. So for like, what does self-love mean to you if you actually had to like define it?
I think it means putting yourself first and knowing that you're not bad for taking care of yourself. Um, because I feel like it's just like when you're on the airplane, right? When the mask drops down, they want you to put the mask on yourself first before you help the person beside you because you can't help them unless you're protected, right? And so
Mhm.
that's what self love is. It's like in order to be there for the people that you need to be, you need to take care of yourself. You need to make time to make sure that you're resting. You need to find things that are going to edify you and pour into your spirit and uplift you and bring you joy. And then taking time out to discover that stuff allows you to understand like who you are as an individual, and you start to understand like what you're passionate about, and you can walk into your truth. So there's a lot of beautiful discovery that happens when you spend time with yourself. And in today's world, it's so easy for us to get distracted with um, electronics or television, or it's weird if you're by yourself because even when you're by yourself, you can look and see what others are doing. So there's so much peace that comes with learning how to be by yourself and taking that time to like learn, understand, and pour in and to rest and rejuvenate. And that way, when you're out in the world, you can give people that good energy that you have, and then they will receive it because it's transferable. So it's just like this beautiful thing. It's like this cycle of love. So once you take care of yourself, then you can pour more love into other people.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's so, so important. Marina and I were talking a little bit ago about how we don't really spend time alone anymore. It's very, I mean, at least for me, I mean, my family's home all the time now, so I don't get like time by myself really. So I really have to like make sure I carve that out in my day, but also like having our phones, like I will open the Instagram app 10 times in a row and look at the same posts. And I don't know why. I mean, I guess it's we're like conditioned to be attached to our phones now, but
Right.
it's just something where, like, we need to sit in being alone, I think, and, whether that's, like, you need to turn your phone off and just figure out what you want to do and just kind of, love on yourself, like, spend time with yourself, treat yourself nicely and, like, two nice things, you know?
They say that there's strength in vulnerability, but I also do believe that there's strength in solidarity because it's like you you need to know how to like be by yourself. And I think that it's it's this thing where people like if you were alone for a little longest time, like you're a loner, or there's FOMO, you feel like you're going to be missing out on something. But it's like when you're by yourself, think about how productive you are, like the things that you can get done, the creative ideas that come to your mind, even just like how much fun you have by yourself. Like I laugh a lot when I'm alone. I think I'm hilarious. I mean, so it's just like it's just so much self discovery. It's I don't know. It's really cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Was just I think it's so important that we enjoy our own company, and I think especially when you're younger, it's really hard to do things by yourself in public. Like go well now we can't, but going to the movies by yourself, going to the restaurants by yourself, and I used to be really uncomfortable with it, and now I'm just like, oh, thank God I don't have to talk to anyone. I can just like sit and listen to music while
Yeah.
I eat a sandwich, and I know I'm pretty introverted, so I genuinely enjoy being alone. But I think about some of the most fun I have is just like being a goofball wandering around my house, and or like, just I think it's so important because if you fully enjoy yourself, then when you meet people, when you meet friends, when you meet a significant other, you can be fully yourself because you've already accepted who you are, and it makes better connections because you come as you are. So everyone meeting you sees you exactly for who you are. They see how you are accepting yourself, standing up for yourself, and they're going to meet you with how you
That's
behave
good.
essentially.
Hmm. Yeah. So, like, how can we kind of incorporate self love into our everyday life? Like, what do you guys think?
Well, for me, that's how I came up with my company. Is I wanted to plug. I wanted to come up with an easy way, like a simple reminder to pour into yourself. And so that's why I was like, I know a lot of people in the world drink coffee or a hot beverage, and
Hmm.
people love affirmations. It's really funny because it's like that sip when you have that first sip of coffee, it's like that joy that comes over you as soon as you have that first sip. It equates to the same thing as when you're scrolling through your Instagram and you see a quote and you're like, oh my God, I needed that. And experiencing both of them separately, I was like, imagine if it was inside of the coffee mug, because I saw so many coffee mugs with beautiful quotes on the outside that I thought were inspiring. But the reason why my quotes are on the inside, it's because I want women to know like this is for them. This is their time. My logo isn't on the outside of my mug; it's on the inside of the mug because it's not super like look at me, look at my brand. It's your moment. And so when you can create simple like things that are a part of your day, it's easy for you to have those reminders. So like I thought, why not? People like want to start their day with coffee. That's typically when they're going over like what they have to do, looking at their calendar, going through their emails, whatever. So they can like get their mind right and affirm themselves and just start like feel confident for what they have to take on.
I love that so much because, like, I mean, we're big fans of like affirmations and things like that, but it's so easy to forget to say them to yourself, I think. And like just regularly, like I know Marina and I have this one that we say where everything is always working out for us. That's kind of like our little together mantra where like when things aren't going as well as we want them to, or we have an idea and we're like, yeah, let's start this. Like that's kind of like our quote, but it's like I think it would be so helpful for us to look at that, like, all the time versus, like,
Yeah.
just in hard moments, even though they're helpful in hard moments.
Yeah, because what you focus on
Yeah,
expands, and
it's
it's science. So what you think you become, what you say you are, and so hopefully it's not like you are what you eat because I ate a lot of bad things that day. But it's so true that that's why you have to be mindful of the type of content that you're reading, the TV that you're watching, the music you listen to, hell, even the friends that you're around, and what they're saying. That all affects your environment and your mindset. And so I think like that's why it's important to be mindful of the things that you're focusing on. So I wanted to have positive affirmations so that people can start to think about things that bring them joy and make them feel confident, and so that they'll get into the subconscious of their mind. So
Mhm. Yeah, I
I
completely
love
believe that,
that.
especially because, like, I mean, my undergraduate degree is in psychology, and I very strongly believe that, like, the things we say to ourselves, the things we do in our daily lives, like, the way we interact with people and ourselves, like, they strengthen or weaken our neural pathways, like, in our brain. So it's, like, actually this, like, physical thing that's happening inside of you. So I think every time that you're reading this affirmation or saying something to yourself or even just looking in the mirror and saying, "I love you," to yourself, I
mhm,
feel like I mean, I know I definitely don't do that enough, you know? So, I think doing those things are, like they're
Yeah.
very, like they're mental reminders, but they're also physical reminders of,
mhm,
like, how important self-love is.
yeah,
Oh my gosh, for sure. I There's so many little things you can do to improve your self-love, which, a big thing would be, go to therapy, work, read there's self-help books out there that help you be more compassionate towards yourself. But the small things that are accessible to everyone are like your mugs that remind you every morning, or I like to eat ice cream out of mine, so like every
love that. I
night.
love that so much.
And whatever works best for you. And like I take a erasable marker and I write on my mirror so that in the morning I have like a good morning message to myself. Like there are just really little things you can do. And I think it's interesting that concept of you are what you eat, or you are what you consume. and you think about all the time we talk about this all the time, all the time we spend scrolling through Instagram, it can be you don't it's like you're numb to it, so you don't realize what's happening until 2 hours later and you feel sick because you've just consumed
Yeah.
all of this content. And I think it's important to kind of we all know that social media is curated, so you might as well curate your feed to feed your soul. So if you're like if you're listening and you hate follow people on Instagram, just
Unfollow them.
unfollow them.
Yes.
Nobody needs that. You don't need it, they don't need it. And like things like that, you can just setting an intention for
Mhm.
positive and goodness, I think can
Yeah.
help so
Well,
much.
that's really good. I It's funny because I'm like, I really don't want people to think that the coffee mugs are to replace therapy. I know how expensive therapy is. It's so expensive. So I wanted just to have a tool for people that may not have the resources or just aren't ready yet, to have something that they can use that would help them, um, with their mindset and have a stronger mindset. So I know that cognitive behavioral therapy really works. And before I launched this business, I actually worked in the beauty industry like years ago as a makeup artist and esthetician. And so that's kind of how I look at my coffee mug is it's maintenance. Like, when you come in and you would see me for a facial, I'm going to go ahead and perform like a deep cleansing that's going to go under like where products that you have at home won't go underneath your skin. And so that's how I look at it was therapy. And before you would leave my spa, you would buy products to have maintenance, right? To keep that maintenance before you see me again. And that's kind of how I look at these coffee mugs. It's like a hug in a mug that will bring you that comfort and provide you with that comfort, if you can't get to the therapist or to a life coach. So it's like that maintenance type thing.
Yeah, and we can't do deep work
Yeah.
all day, every day. Like, that's just not both financially and emotionally possible, but you have to do the little work, it's like that's why we're so excited about your mission and your business because we believe
Oh, thank
in
you
all
so
of it.
much.
Yeah, so I think we can talk a little bit about the flip side of the coin and how we kind of sabotage ourselves when it comes to self-love because I mean, I think we've kind of touched on some negative behaviors like, hate following accounts or like looking at things we, like maybe have negative feelings about or something and just kind of feeding that negativity. So, what do you guys think are like some ways we sabotage ourselves?
I think going back to the fear of failure and adding on impatience, I am very impatient with myself, and that is just so detrimental to to having a positive mindset. I am quick to judge myself, and that's not great. So I'm working to calm and be a little slower. I've been meditating. Well, I've been trying to meditate. I have this like Calm app, and I do it
I
for 10
love the
minutes every day,
comment.
and that's about as long as my brain will let me. Yeah, it's great. It's like, and there's a free version, so you don't have to pay for it, which is
Yeah.
always nice because there's still everyone has 5 minutes to try to shut their brain
Yeah.
off every day.
No, that's really good. I think sometimes it's even if we just want to peel back a little bit more, it could be trauma. So, like,
Mhm.
some people, when they've messed up, they got in trouble and they remember like how they felt. So maybe someone shouted at them, maybe someone called them a word. I mean, if we want to get real vulnerable, I think that's where a lot of my self doubt came from. Growing up in a smaller town, there weren't a lot of people that looked like me. I grew up with a learning disability and I didn't know I had it until I was older. So there were some things like in class that I didn't get as quickly as other people or
Mhm.
and people and since I didn't understand that, I would think of like, oh God, I'm not smart enough. And when you start thinking things like that at a younger age, you're conditioning yourself to think like that when you're older. And so I know that's where a
Hmm.
lot of like my like hesitation comes from trying to do like execute something like I'll have an idea and I'll procrastinate because I'm like, oh my god, what if it's not well received, what if it's not
Mhm.
something that people love. And so I think sometimes people have that negative self-talk just based off of like their experience growing up and how they've been treated.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's like a super fair
For
point.
sure.
One thing I tell myself is to get out of my own way because I know I put up these like blocks for myself where I'm like, I'm not necessarily telling myself I'm not good enough, but that's like the underlying message, right? When you're like, maybe like people won't like this, or I don't know how this will be taken, or like, I have this idea and I wanna put it into practice, but I'm coming up with every excuse in the book of why I can't do it right now, you know? So I think that those are, like, just, simple ways a lot of us sabotage ourselves really frequently.
Mhm. And even the little things like if you drop something, you're like, "Ugh, I'm done." Like that stuff adds up over time.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of the reason why, like again, I wanted to create a simple reminder is to make you become more self-aware of your thoughts. Because when you start to become self-aware, that's when you can interject those thoughts and replace them with something positive. So you can be like, Ashley, why did you? And you're like, give yourself grace. Why do you give people grace and you can't give yourself that grace? Like you just drop something. You don't need to go there, right? It's just like, oops, I missed this. Let me grab it, put it back, make a mental note to make sure to be more careful next time. And so when you're self aware, you can start to do that. So like I think that's something that's so important too with affirmations is how they help you really understand the thoughts that are just going through your mind because there's like a million thoughts like a second, that are racing through your mind.
Mhm.
Yeah. The way we speak to
Yeah.
ourselves really matters. And that's why these positive affirmations that you're sharing are so important because, like, you
Yeah.
hear it from yourself
Mhm.
first.
Yeah, yeah, that kind of reminds me because I think a lot, like, because I have a toddler, he's 18 months old, and I mean, he spills things all the time. He drops things, and like, I just tell him, "Oh, it's okay, like, we drop stuff, it's fine, we'll just clean it up. Like, we can clean up messes,
Yeah.
it's not a big deal, we just move on." And I think, like, I am far more patient with him than I ever expected myself to be, honestly. It's kind of surprised me. But it's kind of like sort of changing the way I talk to myself where I'm just like, it's fine. Like we just, move on. Like we can clean up messes. It's okay. You
Yeah.
know, it doesn't say anything about who you are as a person.
Isn't it funny too, like when you do have children, and you become more self-aware of the things that you say and you think, that's when you can start to like have intergenerational healing. Like, and that's a
Hmm.
very beautiful thing. Because
Mhm.
if you think about it, we're all doing our best. There's no manual book for how to be the best parent. I mean, there's books, but it is a learn by doing type of thing.
Hmm.
So I've heard. I don't have children, but so I've heard. And so I think it's really cool when you do start to work on yourself, you'll understand like that's going to be passed down to your children. And that's another form of legacy. And I think that's something that should be like praised more and talked about more rather than just like this financial legacy, but it's also just a mental health legacy too, because you do want to be better for the next generation.
Yeah, that's definitely something I think a lot about because I think my mom has like a lot of unresolved trauma. I don't want to get into it or anything, but I think that she just didn't know how to deal with a lot of things in her life. And so she just didn't know how to deal with like me and my siblings growing up. So she, would say things and it's like it's kind of taken me a long time to like realize that I don't hold that against her as a person because she just didn't have the tools to deal with things that she needed to. And like now that I'm an adult, I see like how toxic a lot of the things in her life were and how she was passing that on to us. But I like it takes me like a lot of internal work to like work through those things myself and to make sure I'm not, letting them affect my parenting and how I want my children to grow up and things like that. And I mean, some of it, like, I'm able to talk about my mom with it more now and like help her realize these things. And it's it's both like healing and hard to go through, because I think that she never had anyone to tell her that she was good enough or that she was doing a great job. Like, I think a lot of people in her life put her down. And I think it's just one way that like we can help other people with their self love is to not be so judgmental
Mhm.
towards them because we're all in different places in these journeys. And I mean, I try my best not to judge other people. I feel like I don't really judge myself that harshly. Like, again, I'm like, oh, it's okay. We mess up. It's fine. Move on. So I try to be that way, but like also recognizing that like different people are in different places in their journeys and then
Mhm.
they're working through things at different paces.
Yeah, yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, it's so important to accept people as they are, and we all can learn from each other. And, you know, I learned a lot from Nicole as I watched her become a mother because she's my first friend to have kids. And so I, you know, always had an idea of what I thought parenting would be like. And then I saw how differently Nicole took it. And it was just like, wow, this is amazing. I'm learning so much. And the same thing can go when someone arrives to you, if if I go to Nicole with a bad day, she's not like, "Oh, I can't take your things right now." Like she's just like, "Okay, we're having a bad day. It's going to be okay." And it's really, I think when you have a safe place because you're being accepted for whatever you bring to the table, it helps you heal and it helps you remember, "Oh, I can be positive towards myself." So doing that for others is going to help them as just as
Yeah,
much as it's going to
that's
help
really
you.
good. I love that. And let me tell you, we weren't meant to do life alone. We really, really, really weren't. And life is all about community. And if you're not treating your community with respect and with love, they're not going to stay around you. And what you put out, you do attract. So I guess what I will say is like you don't necessarily have to be alone in order to be alone. There's so many people that feel alone with tons of people around them because they don't feel understood or they don't feel like they can be themselves. It could be anything. But when you start loving on your community, what will happen is they'll either love you right back and they'll appreciate it, or you might not receive that love, and that doesn't mean that you cross that person off. Because kind of like what you were saying is like, um, you know, I like to say you meet people where they're at. So, like, if people can only give you 20%, doesn't mean that you only give them 20%. You can give them more, but understand that you may not be getting back what you give them. So it's like you should meet them where they're at instead of just necessarily cutting them off, unless it's a toxic behavior that's really affecting your livelihood. But community is everything, and in order to have a strong community, you got to treat them how you want to be treated. That's
Mhm.
super, super important. It's basic, but it's vital. So
It's the golden rule, right? I learned that in the first grade. Treat people the way you wish to be treated. Mrs. German, holler. She had like a sign on the chalkboard. I remember it clear as day.
I love
A
that.
hundred years
No, it's
later.
so true.
Yeah, yeah, putting, like, positive energy out, I think, is so important, and it's also Marina and I talk a lot about boundaries, and I think that kind of plays into the idea of you, like, meeting people where they're at, but, like, knowing that you have firm boundaries that are okay to put in place because you really do need to protect yourself and, like, your own cup, Like, if your cup's not full, then you can't really, show up and serve other people, so if people are just draining your cup, like, you have to put a stop to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah. And self care.
Oh,
Oh,
I just said you
sorry. Go
can't
say that
pour from
again.
an empty cup.
Exactly.
Exactly. And that's why we talk so much about self care because taking care of yourself in big or little ways is a way that you just straight up are giving yourself love, that you're showing yourself, I deserve this, I am valuable, I'm worthy, I love myself. It's all those micro activities that add up
Yeah.
to the end game.
Remember that it just happened, the black and white challenge that just happened and how it went super, super viral?
Mhm.
Oh yeah, the women in
Right, and
black
it's
and white
like,
photos.
how many women were just so thrilled to participate in that challenge and celebrate themselves because it was a safe space where they could and they wouldn't be judged. That just
Mhm.
goes to show you how many people want to be confident, but they feel like if they're bold or strong or they are proud of who they are, or just even if it's a fabulous photo, they're like, what if people think that I'm too like self-absorbed, or there's all of these things. And
Mhm.
that's what that challenge showed me is there's so many women that want to be bold, they want to be brave, they want to celebrate their beauty, they want to celebrate other people's beauty, but there's something that like I can go on a tangent because like there's like a girl boss movement that I sometimes feel like isn't super authentic, but there's just so I feel like so many
Mhm.
women want that, but sometimes there's this thing where they'll feel like they'll be judged if they are confident in their skin and they're projecting that to the world.
Mhm.
And we're not set up for success in general. Society teaches women that you can't be boastful, you can't be proud, you can't be all of these quote unquote negative things. And there was this culture where women were
Hmm.
competition. So when you see a woman, sometimes when you would see a woman lift herself up, other women would attack and try to tear her down. So we are all about
Yes,
lifting each other up because we only get
yes.
taller together. And speaking about the black and white photo, if you think about how women receive compliments, 10 times out of 10, if someone gives me a compliment, my first reaction is, thank you, it's from, and like, I kind of deflect the attention and I say where I bought the dress, or I talk about how it has pockets. I think it's so easy when you give someone a compliment for them to say, oh, it's just, I showered, so it's a good hair day, or oh, I just threw this together. Like that's another way to love yourself and love on others is to give genuine compliments freely and
Yeah.
accept them freely. Like thank you can be a full sentence,
Mhm.
just like you're welcome is. We don't have to over explain things. We don't have to justify ourselves as women. We deserve to take up all the space we
Yeah.
are
No, you're
encompassing.
so right. I'm just like you. Like, I couldn't accept a compliment for the longest time. I would just be like, "Oh, I got this because," or "It's not that." Oh, But now I'm like, "Thank you, queen." Yes, because I love
Mhm.
compliments. There's so much power in compliments if they are authentic and genuine. Like,
Mhm.
I always say, a compliment doesn't count unless you say it out loud. Like, I'll be in the grocery store. Like right now we have masks on, but even if I see someone with cute shoes, I'll be like, "Girl, I love your shoes." Like, didn't cost me anything, didn't hurt me. Like, if anything, it's making me feel more confident to speak my truth and just to be more bold. And then the person feels really great too. So you cheered them up as well. So it's like there's you can't lose by complimenting people. And then if you're not ready to accept a compliment, because I know it could be a little uncomfortable, I always tell people just save it for a rainy day. You don't need to use it now. Save that for a rainy day. Put it in a vault when you're not having the best day, and you can remember when that person told you, something that made you feel very heartfelt and happy. So like, just store them away if you're not fully ready to take them right now, but take them and stock up.
Absolutely. This might be really cheesy, but I'm owning it. I keep selfies on my phone. So whenever I feel really good about myself, I take a photo. And then on days that I'm really not feeling it, I will look back and remember, like, oh, yeah, this. And it's not even like I'm wearing a nice outfit. I could be in sweats, but I'm just having a great day. And I'll take a photo and remember. And it's just a nice way to kind of, again, go back and affirm yourself. And I do it all the time. It's my phone, like iPhones tell you how many selfies you have on your phone, and
Oh my
the
god,
three
I love
digits,
that.
guys.
Hey,
It's in the
whatever
three
works for
digits.
you, do it. There's no shame. Like, whatever works for you, do it.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Well, Ashley, thank you so much for joining us. This conversation has been such a pleasure. Where can people find you if they
Yes,
want to learn
you
more?
can find me at on Instagram at compliments in, and that's the letter N, not and, coffee. So compliments in coffee on Instagram. And then my website is complimentsincoffee.com, and the same for Facebook. So please stop on by, say hello. I'd love to meet you. There's a lot of encouraging content on those sites. And just as a gift, I would love to gift your community Gen 20 with a coupon code, or a discount code. So the discount code is Gen 2020 for 20% off your purchase, and that code will last until the end of the year. So you have until the end of 2020 to use it. And there's a lot of exciting things that are about to be released. So if you're looking for gifts to get for the holidays, come on by. We gotcha.
Thank you so much, Ashley.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
thank you.
Sweet.
Thank you. And we will link your information and the code in the show notes below. Nicole, do you want to take us
Yeah,
out?
so this has been another episode of the Gen 20 podcast. Thank you for listening. We'd love for you to leave a rating and a review, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.